The morning rush had just begun when Ethan Cole's world paused for a second, right at the lobby entrance of his towering glass skyscraper. The rain had just stopped, the smell of damp asphalt mixed with perfume and coffee. Employees in sleek suits moved briskly through the revolving doors, their eyes glued to their phones. And in that sea of gray and ambition, a small voice cut through the noise like a fragile whisper that somehow reached straight into his chest. "You forgot your lunch, Daddy." Ethan froze. The words weren't loud, but something about the trembling sweetness in them made his hand stop mid-air. He turned, startled, scanning the polished marble floor until his eyes landed on a tiny girl standing a few feet away. She was around 6, with tangled hair tied in a pink ribbon, wearing a faded yellow dress that looked 2 sizes too big. Her small hands clutched a brown lunchbox wrapped in plastic, and her big hazel eyes looked up at him with a mix of hope and fear. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. He didn't have a daughter. He never had a family, at least not one that stayed. He'd buried himself in work, built an empire from nothing, and traded love for success long ago. Yet, as he looked at the child's trembling lips and the way her eyes shimmered when she said that word, Daddy, something inside him cracked open, as if an old, forgotten door in his heart had been forced ajar. Backhand index pointing right before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments that change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The little girl lowered her gaze, realizing she had made a mistake. I'm sorry, she stammered, her voice barely audible. You just look like my daddy." He forgot his lunch too, but, she stopped, clutching the lunchbox tighter. "He doesn't come home anymore." Something inside Ethan tightened. The girl's small frame, the innocence in her tone, it pierced through the steel armor of his routine. He crouched down slowly, unsure of what to say, unsure why his chest felt heavy. But before he could ask, a young woman came rushing from the corner, her clothes damp from rain, her breath ragged from running. "Lila," she cried, grabbing the girl's shoulders gently. "You can't just run off like that." She looked up at Ethan, eyes widening in embarrassment. I'm so sorry, sir." "She thought you were." Ethan raised a hand softly. "It's all right." He looked between them, this small girl with too much sadness in her eyes, and the mother whose exhaustion spoke louder than words. "She's okay." The woman nodded, flustered. "Thank you." Her clothes were modest, her shoes worn out, and her hands red from the cold. She had the kind of beauty that didn't seek attention, just quiet strength. As she took her daughter's hand and turned to leave, Ethan felt an inexplicable pull. Something in him didn't want to let them walk away, not yet. He found himself calling out, "Wait." They turned. He hesitated. "Does she need help finding her dad?" The woman smiled faintly, a sad, tired curve of her lips. "No. He's gone. It's just us now." And with that, they disappeared into the crowd outside the glass doors, leaving Ethan standing still, holding a silence heavier than any meeting he'd ever been in. That night, Ethan couldn't focus. The board reports blurred before his eyes, the numbers meaningless. The echo of that little voice, "You forgot your lunch, Daddy," wouldn't leave his mind. He closed his laptop early, something he hadn't done in years, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he found himself driving toward the poorer part of the city. It was raining again when he saw them, a small diner with a flickering sign, and through its fogged-up window, that same little girl sitting on a stool, coloring on napkins while her mother served customers. Her name tag read Mara. Her smile was weary but gentle, and when she passed by her daughter, she brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead with a tenderness that broke something open inside Ethan. He watched quietly, hidden behind his tinted car windows, wondering why he felt so much for strangers he didn't know. Maybe because, deep down, he knew loneliness too well. The next morning, he showed up at that same diner. Mara looked surprised but offered her usual polite smile. Coffee? Ethan nodded. And maybe something for the little artist over there? Lila's face lit up when Mara nodded permission. Ethan handed her a small box of crayons he'd bought that morning. I figured you might need more colors, he said. She beamed, a pure, grateful smile that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. That became a quiet ritual. Every few days, Ethan would visit the diner. He'd sit in his usual corner, order coffee he barely touched, and talk with Lila while her mother worked. Sometimes Lila would show him her drawings, messy houses, stick figures, and always a tall man beside a smiling girl. That's my daddy, she'd say softly, tracing the man's outline. He used to make me pancakes every Sunday. Ethan never asked what happened to him. He didn't have to. Pain spoke in silences too. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, Ethan became part of their small world, a silent guardian they didn't ask for but learned to trust. He helped Mara fix the diner's flickering lights one evening, offered to replace the broken refrigerator, and even sponsored new menus for her small business under the guise of community support. But it wasn't charity anymore. It was care. Real, quiet care. For the first time in years, Ethan laughed again, really laughed, when Lila accidentally spilled juice on his expensive suit and giggled like it was the funniest thing in the world. He didn't care. In her eyes, he saw innocence uncorrupted by greed, the kind he'd lost long ago chasing success. Then one evening, everything changed. It was Lila's birthday. She'd drawn a handmade card for Ethan, a stick figure of her, her mom, and him, with the words "Thank you, Daddy Ethan." The name made his chest ache in a way he couldn't explain. He stayed late that night, helping Mara close up. The city outside was quiet, soft with snow. As they wiped down tables, Mara suddenly asked, "Why do you do all this for us?" Ethan hesitated. "Because I think you remind me of what I lost." She looked at him, puzzled. "My mother died when I was young," he said softly. "My father was never around. I learned early that love doesn't last, so I stopped looking for it. I thought success would fill that emptiness. It didn't." His voice cracked. "Then one day, a little girl called me Daddy, and I realized maybe life was giving me another chance, to be what I never had." Tears welled in Mara's eyes. "You've already done more than you think," she whispered. Lila hasn't smiled this much in years. The silence that followed was tender, filled with something unspoken but real. But fate has a cruel way of testing fragile happiness. A few weeks later, Ethan collapsed during a board meeting. Overwork, exhaustion, and a heart condition he'd ignored for years caught up to him. He woke up in a hospital bed, machines beeping softly, the sterile scent of antiseptic surrounding him. When he opened his eyes, Lila was there, curled up in a chair beside his bed, her tiny hand holding his. Mara stood at the doorway, tears glistening. "She wouldn't leave until she knew you were okay," she said softly. Ethan looked at Lila's sleeping face, her small hand gripping his like he was her lifeline. And in that moment, he realized something profound. All his life, he'd built towers of glass, but none of them compared to the warmth of this small, borrowed family. When he recovered, Ethan made a decision that shocked everyone at his company. He resigned. He handed over control, packed up his penthouse, and bought a small house near the diner, a home with a garden, a porch swing, and laughter echoing through the halls. He didn't replace Lila's father, nor did Mara ever ask him to. But love doesn't always follow bloodlines. Sometimes, it grows in the spaces between broken hearts that find one another. Lila still brought him his coffee every morning and sometimes whispered the same line she had that first day, just to make him smile. "You forgot your lunch, Daddy," she'd giggle, holding out his bag. And every time, Ethan would kneel, take the lunch from her tiny hands, and whisper back, "Thank you, sweetheart. I won't forget again." Months later, on a sunny spring afternoon, Ethan stood at the diner's door, watching Mara and Lila serve customers together. The place was thriving now, full of warmth and laughter. Lila ran up and hugged his leg. "We're happy now, right, Daddy Ethan?" He smiled, eyes misty. "Yes, Lila. We finally are." As the golden light filled the diner, Ethan realized that life had given him a gift greater than any fortune, a family not bound by blood, but by love and grace. Sparkling Heart, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your one click helps kindness spread farther than you can imagine. And before you go, speech balloon comment below, do you believe that family is who stays and loves you, not just who you're born to?